Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Things are going great. Ben, good morning, mysterious people on my magic mirror. Good morning, Ben. Christine, love having you. Good morning. Good morning. B for victory. Bon matin. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Good morning, B for victory. David, good morning, breakup gang. Good morning. Good morning. Tommy, good morning, NPCs. Good morning, my fellow NPCs. I hope you're doing great. Robert, good morning. Bitcoin makes the season bright, doesn't it indeed? Good morning, John. Good to be alive, isn't it? Isn't it? Cat23, happy Bitcoin. There you go. Thomas, good morning. Yes, indeed. Let me confirm for all of you. The sun up, Bitcoin running. Let's have a coffee. Talk about what's new. Jevy in the house. What's up, my man? Hope you're doing great. Aqualodge, good morning. We got a coffee, we got a sunrise, and we got to live long and prosper. We love it. We love living long and prospering. Hoddle T. Washington, I got one of your tags up early in the lineup this morning. Glenn, good morning. What a year. It has been an amazing year. When 2024, winning. All right. You want some Moscow time? Shit. No, I forgot. I knew something was wrong with my setup. Just give me 1 second here. I can actually fix this. We're going to try a bit of a new setup today. Just a second. How I forgot that, but that's fine. I think this will work. 1 second. Okay. No, that's not what I need. Photos. This should work. Oof, no, we gotta shut you down. Your photos curated. Yes. My albums. No, that's not what I need. I need shared albums. Projects. Well, whatever. I'm gonna have to do it off my phone. Very stupid of me. That's okay. I made the album. The album worked. I forgot my iPad upstairs. There's always something. It's never that simple. Okay. Moscow time. We got it. We got a Moscow time. Ready, Tom? We're going to break it up. Energy flowing into time. Pace. There you go. All right. Did you know that the vaccine name is changing, right? So remember they used to call them vaccines, right? That was a thing. It was vaccines. Okay, well, turns out they're going to be calling it prevention injections now, according to the CHOC. What to know about the new RSV prevention injection? And I wonder if the name changing has actually caused the following health advisory in the United States, because maybe people just don't know, right? So this is a health advisory that the CDC gave America yesterday. So the CDC says, as of yesterday, CDC issues health advisory over low vaccination rates across the United States. Well, they've been calling them prevention injections, guys. That could be why. All right, now I got 2 from our friend Phil Bump. What do we know about Phil Bump, right? You remember how we used to get angry at the news, right? Oh, I can't believe they said that. They're terrible. Why would they say that? Phil Bump was a guy who used to get me angry all the time because, gaslighting sort of pisses people off, right? But once you understand how Operation Mockingbird works and these other things, Phil Bump doesn't really bug you as much, right? That's why he's a big part of Moscow time. Everything he writes is a punchline. Everything he writes is a joke, right? There's nothing that Phil Bump writes that you should ever take seriously. You should always read it as a clown going ka-ka-ka, like that, right? That's Phil Bump. So here's what he says, according to the Washington Post. He wrote 2 pieces yesterday. That's why he gets a special section in Moscow time today. Ready? Americans trust friends and family more than the media for election information. So good. Oh, he's got another one, though. He wasn't done there, right? He actually wrote this, guys. Phil Bump says, crime is down, though Fox News viewers might not be aware. They're still going on the Fox News thing, like as if Trump supporters even watch Fox News anymore. Imagine Trump supporters or anyone still watching Fox News who's got a brain, right? What's going on here? Okay, there you go. That's our Moscow time for today. I do have a quick update though. Do you remember I said The Economist was some of the fakest news you'll ever find? But I also said if ever they confirm my own biases, I'll forgive them. Right. So the Economist, we all get it, right? As fake as it gets, right? The Economist, regular contributors to Moscow Time, right? The Economist magazine. But yesterday they wrote an article, so that all is forgiven. They wrote the following yesterday: why Bitcoin is up almost 150% this year. And then they go into saying the second reason is that with each boom bust cycle, it becomes clear that crypto is not a bubble like tulip mania in the 1630s or the craze for beanie babies in the 1990s. Although Bitcoin is a volatile asset, its price history looks more like a mountain range than a single peak and appears closely correlated with tech stocks. Yet it is only moderately correlated with the broader market, an asset that swings up and down and not in parallel with other things people might have in a portfolio can be a useful diversifier. Economist, way to go. Way to go, guys. You're forgiven. You're forgiven until the next time you write a Phil Bump-esque headline, right? So that's one thing. Now, let's also do, just before we get into our theme for the day, let's get a prediction monitor, prediction tracker. What did we say on Friday? Remember I said that Jeff Bezos was going to find Bitcoin in 2024. It might have come early. I might have been wrong. He might have found it in 2023, right? Now, my inclination was, if we all remember, we were talking about time preference and he talked about his big clock that he wants to make, the 10,000 year clock and blah, 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 blah. Well, very great idea. I love the 10,000 year clock. But what I said to him at the time was, hey, you don't have to wait to change people's time preference. You can do it now. We've already got Bitcoin. So what happened this weekend is, now this is just from page 6. Okay, this is just page 6. So this is actually in the end, the only journalism you can trust is the rumor, like who went where, right? Because they can't get anything else right. So page 6, if you don't know, is a New York Post who was seen at whose party thing, right? So this is what they wrote. Okay, I'm going to tell you what they wrote. All right, this is a pretty amazing stuff, and I got this from Hoddle T, Washington, and I'm quoting Macronaut BTC here. Okay, so this is the actual quote from page 6. It's been quite a year for Lauren Sanchez. She got engaged to Amazon boss Jeff Bezos and also scored a feature in Vogue. The future second Mrs. Bezos celebrated her birthday in style over the weekend in St. Bart's, dancing on tables at the scenic spot La Petite Plage. La Petite Plage, the little beach it's called. Seaside spies say Sanchez, Bezos, movie producer Brian Glazer, media mogul David Geffen, IAC honcho Barry Diller, and MicroStrategy's Michael Saylor were spotted at the chic beachside eatery in the port of Gustavia on Friday night for the bash. So the very night where I made a prediction that Bezos was going to find Bitcoin, he had dinner with Michael Saylor. I think we're winning, guys. I think the winning is almost there. And what I predicted on Friday was that, now I don't know what happened, right? But could you imagine any scenario where Michael Saylor has a conversation and Bitcoin doesn't come up? Could you? What conversation is that, right? So pretty sure Bezos heard a mouthful about the clock thing and Bitcoin on Friday night at La Petite Plage in St. Bart's, a beautiful island, by the way. So there you go. Now, my prediction too was that if Bezos defects from the fiat industrial complex, that's Phil Bump's job gone. That's the whole Washington Post thing gone. Now, remember, I've always thought that Jeff Bezos' involvement with Washington Post was one of these blackmail things or something, or maybe it was a patriotism thing, right? Maybe he was naive at the time and said, yeah, I'll fight for America, I'll buy your thing and we'll run propaganda through it, I'm a patriot. That's a believable scenario for some people. I'd say 15 years ago, if I would have been in Jeff Bezos's position when he bought the Washington Post, super rich and all that, and sometimes I think maybe the government would ask people like that. So maybe I would have done the same. Who knows, right? Who knows? So until we know more details, and even if he was complicit in what they were doing for years, civilization is on the line, so all is forgiven. And what I said is the fiat industrial complex cannot afford to lose Jeff Bezos, because we're starting to get to the point where we're looking at teams, right? It's a team game, and we're starting to see which players are on which teams, and you can't really sit in the middle like you could. 2016 allowed you to sit in the middle. It allowed you to say, oh, it's stupid politics. I don't like Trump, and Hillary's not great either. And 2020 allowed you to say the same thing, right? So what I've been arguing for a long time is that now, as we get to 2024, and we're literally in a position here where we're choosing between which type of future we have, like an absolute dystopian shithole, no one wants to live in it, or a Bitcoin standard utopia where we have sound money and we separate money and state. So that's the game we're in right now. And it looks like everyone has to make a choice. We've seen who's made the choice to be on Team Human, is what it was called, right? Elon Musk has called it Team Human, and you see that sort of gathering momentum. So if Jeff Bezos does defect, let's say, there's no way they can win, right? The two rocket men on one team, we can't lose. But even if Jeff Bezos doesn't, I think we have it, right? Because if I look at every single one of the supporting features of the fiat industrial complex, it looks like they're all getting attacked individually by different team members who have joined Team Human and are all inching towards Bitcoin. And we'll see how that works, right? Because every one of these people I'm about to bring up today, it seems like every one of our Avengers has a story today that relates to the inability of their opposition, the thing they're attacking, to be able to support the fiat industrial complex any longer. So I'll explain. And that's our theme today, right? It is, oh yeah, did you see the reason the title today is from the Bitwise commercial? Did you guys see that? They got the Dos Equis beer guy, Dos Equis, I don't normally drink beer, but when I do, right, that guy. So they don't even have the punchline. They do it even better. It's just him again, right? He's sitting at a table and he goes, what's interesting these days? Bitcoin. This is so good, right? If Trump ever does that, game over, right? He would be the ultimate avenger in this case. So we'll get to him at the end of this morning. So the first avenger assembling that I have here is of course Vivek. Now we're talking about the fake news and all of these Phil Bump types that are involved in propagating and gaslighting and saying all this crazy shit, right? So if you remember a few weeks ago, we had the Elon Musk rallying cry, go fuck yourself, right? Sorry if there's children around, right? I usually try to warn you if I'm going to be swearing. So I apologize to any children or parents who have children in the room right now. But he said the go F yourself line, which was amazing, right? How many of you copied the line, right? For all kinds of stuff. Do you know that I canceled Disney that day? And then when it gave you your reasons to cancel, I put other and I just said, go fuck yourself, right? And I think a lot of people, the people were sharing that screenshot sort of all day that day. We saw yesterday at Turning Point USA, Ashley St. Clair, who I'm trying to get at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. She was on stage on a little sort of news desky thing with Ava Vlardingerbroek, who spoke at Bitcoin Amsterdam, who will be there at Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville. So the two of those ladies were talking on this live desk yesterday at the show, and they said exactly that, right? If you're not supporting Elon Musk in his fight for free speech, you're missing the plot here. It's one of the most important battles going on. So that rallying cry was amazing, and a lot of people cut their Disney at that point, and that's one of the things that she was saying, cut your Disney and get rid of it. She's like, I have a kid and we don't have Disney anymore. I'm in the same boat, right? I don't have it anymore. But we have a new rallying cry. And so Elon gave his the other day. Vivek got a great one yesterday. So, Van Jones, he's another one of these Mockingbird guys. I think some people can say he plays it straight, but I've seen too much of his mischief now to give him much more credit, right? So Van Jones comes out during the debate last week, and you know what he said? You know what he said about Vivek? That we're watching the worst megalomaniac, a dictator in the making. He's going to live longer than Trump. What are we doing here, right? So someone asked Vivek about this, right? And what was Vivek's answer, right? He didn't argue with Van Jones. You don't argue with Phil Bump. You don't argue with fiat maximalists. They have brain damage or they're lying, right? So it's not, they don't have real opinions. They have mental illness or they have lies. They do not have opinions. You don't argue their opinions and say, oh, I'm not going to be a fascist in 50 years. You don't do that. You do what Vivek did. What did Vivek do to Van Jones? He didn't bother with the details, he said, well, Van Jones should shut the fuck up. Which is exactly the right answer, right? What do you say to someone who calls you that? Right? You don't argue the details. You don't answer the question. If you're a gentle husband and a nice fella, right? And you do nothing like beat your wife, you don't answer the question, when are you going to stop beating your wife? You don't. You don't, right? It's a no-win situation. It's that tic-tac-toe move where no matter where you go, you win, right? I play that tic-tac-toe with my kids all the time, right? Of course, I have to prevent myself from winning because everyone knows that trick. And so, it's a tails, I win, heads you lose type of situation, right? So Vivek takes the only way out. It's like what Trump did with the Rosie O'Donnell thing years ago, right? There was one way out with the Rosie O'Donnell question. Remember that? You, Donald Trump, you call women pigs and slobs. And what was the way out? He had one way out, and it was hilarious. Only Rosie O'Donnell. Vivek does it here, right? He gets out of this bind by not bothering with the details of what Van Jones said. He's a fraud. He's a complete and total Operation Mockingbird fraud. So if you do what Vivek did, remember, it's a great move, right? You should shut the fuck up, right? So that goes into our repertoire with go fuck yourself, right? So we got go fuck yourself working now. We got shut the fuck up working. We're doing great. We're doing great. These slogans are very, very tight, very accurate, and they work. So Vivek also mentioned two other things yesterday, right? So these are the foundations, right? Forget about the media for a second. That's a good one, right? He did a great job. We'll talk about more of our ability to fight against them in a moment. But he also went into debanking yesterday, right? And in an important way. So he's in Iowa right now for the caucuses, right? So if everyone's always wondering why we're always talking about, or why you're always seeing the politicians in Iowa and New Hampshire, it's because in the US system, those states go first for the primaries. And that was very deliberate, right? They wanted to go to rural states first to force politicians into meeting rural people, into being cornered into conversations before they go into larger states where you start going in mainstream media and stuff like that, where Iowa and New Hampshire both demand hands-on approach and to meet with people in small settings, right? So that's why you keep hearing about it. So Vivek back in Iowa today, and he's going to meet the truckers, right? He's going to meet truckers. And this is what he says. Truckers aren't just haulers of goods. They're guardians of our way of life and guardians of freedom on our highways. Last year, the Canadian Freedom Convoy taught the world a valuable lesson about the power of civil protest against an out-of-control totalitarian government. On Thursday, December 21st, join me in Walcott at Iowa 80, the world's largest truck stop, where I will lay out my detailed plan for how to support truckers and our supply chain while ensuring freedom for all. Now, I don't think he's going to get into debanking there, right? But it's going to come up. And I think, again, everyone understands. I was so happy when Justin Trudeau did that to the truckers, because, again, I said, I used to believe before Trudeau, you couldn't orange pill all Canadians at once. You couldn't do it, right? Trudeau did a great job. He penetrated Bitcoin into more people's minds in like a downtime for Bitcoin than anyone you'll ever find. And to this day, it's the reason why RFK got involved. What it precipitated can never be underestimated. I knew it at the time. I think a lot of Bitcoiners knew it at the time. It sucked, right? Like, I don't like being a terrorist in my own country, but it was really worth it, right? Like, it's one of the funniest things that ever happened. So the good news is Vivek going hard at the debanking here. So this is an important part of censorship. It's an important part of the financial censorship that goes on that helps propagate the fiat industrial complex. He also reiterated yesterday his election promise, right? So let's think again of the pillars here, right? We get debanking and those things, really important means of control. We get one of these, Avengers, one of these Team Human folks, Vivek here, attacking that, right? Excellent. So he's contributing slogans. He's attacking one of the pillars. Elections, of course, one of the most important pillars, especially the conversation on the 2020 election, how we talk about it. Remember, I always urge you guys, never do what America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who I love Rudy Giuliani, right? Who doesn't love Rudy Giuliani? Just a swell guy. But what have we seen of Giuliani all week, right? He owes $100 and something million, right, against Ruby Freeman, who I think is innocent. Honestly, I think she's innocent, right? Ruby Freeman, the Democrat, whatever lady who runs elections in Georgia, no one will ever tell you if you listen here, we don't have any confidence in the 2020 election. Zero, right? But it's not because of Ruby Freeman in some video that I saw. If you ever see videos about that say this person did that and they're cheat, can't you see? It's obvious. I saw the video. That's what everyone said at Charlottesville. Remember Charlottesville, the big scam about how Trump and the very fine people, one of the worst instances of brainwashing in the history of America, one of the most deceptive, one of the biggest lies ever told to the American public, the Charlottesville thing, right? It was very obviously staged. It was very obviously a paid op. At the time, no one really understood how wicked and evil these people were, so no one's imagination can go there. But after the Patriot Front, after January 6th, after all these things, it becomes very obvious that the federal government, Whitmer, right, very obvious that the federal government is involved in some terrible shenanigans, such as Charlottesville. So with the Charlottesville thing, right, what we understood was, what I understood anyway at that time, and I started repeating that mantra to myself from Charlottesville on. If anyone said to you, I saw the video, didn't you see the video? Well, that's the first moment where you know you're being lied to, right? This whole thing where video shows you something is a scam. And now that we have these AI rendered videos, it's even more so, right? So if anyone tells you I saw a video, they might as well have said I saw an animation that's a hallucination from someone's mind. It's never true because of special effects and whatever else, right? So do not talk about the elections in terms of, did you see the video? All I see now are pictures of poor Rudy Giuliani with his hair dye rolling down his face. It's very sad to see, but he's stupid. He went after this dumb thing where he saw a video. He's an old fella. I get it, right? He might not know about, how deceptive videos can be. But that's why Bitcoiners speak about it in a better way, right? Because we understand that if you know the system itself is corrupted for elections, and all you need to know about the system is, can people cheat and can they get caught? Is that possible, right? Now, in Bitcoin, when we look at the engineering of our network, the point is you can't cheat, right? It's built so you can't cheat. It's security by design, right? And there is no way to cheat. We all understand that. Those are the trade-offs. That's why Bitcoin is slow, right? Because we've optimized for the credibility of the network. Shitcoins optimize for the convenience of the network, which is why Bitcoiners don't involve themselves with shitcoins, because we understand this trade. We understand the trade-offs, the engineering trade-offs that go into the network. We get it, right? So the way to not talk about it is, that person cheated, I can prove it. Not convincing, right? How about the system is so corrupted you can't catch people for cheating? You have no way to know someone cheated. And what happens in that instance? If there's no way to find out you're cheated, and there's no way to catch people who cheated, because you can't audit the database, because you can't audit the firmware, because you can't audit the software, because you can't audit the hardware, right? Well, what would happen? Bitcoiners know you don't need proof that there's cheating. You don't need any, right? Can you cheat without getting caught? Yes. What happens that instance? People cheat. It's just that. It's just human nature, right? So Bitcoiners don't need any smoking gun. We just have to understand the engineering, and then we understand what's going on. Vivek does not do the Rudy Giuliani system. Vivek promises the real system, which is a one-day vote, one-day paper ballots, just like in Israel, just like in other civilized places. And that's the way to do it, right? So he's going, and we talked about this yesterday, right? What happened with Christmas? Christmas was and I saw some people say it was British or whatever. I'm talking about American Christmas, by the way, right? So American Christmas as a national holiday was established as part of reconciliation after the Civil War. I understand they were more pagan. There were other Christmases. England had a Christmas, but the Puritans who came to America denied those things. They didn't want holidays and feasts, right? The Puritans who came to America are much, much more like the Wahhabi Saudi Arabians, for real, right? The real people who came on the Mayflower, who created the universities and all that, that was a theocracy. America had a theocracy inside of it for a long time that created maybe the most successful part of America, right? So the theocracy that was there denied all feasts, banquets in honor of any religious ceremony. They held super long religious gatherings on the weekends, on a Saturday and stuff like that, but it was very, very Protestant, let's say. So there was no, none of these things where you could get taxed by your church, right? It was all community based, and feasts and things like that were not welcomed. So I understand I understand Christmas exists in the world before America, but the Christmas that we all understand, the one that we celebrate in America, came as a part of reconciliation. The North was told to celebrate Christmas in harmony with the South, who already celebrated, right? Because they were Catholic. There was already a feast and things like that. So they created a new holiday for America for reconciliation. That's what Vivek is after here. He's talking about making a holiday for Election Day where no one goes to work. We celebrate American democracy or the system, and we understand the system, and we participate in the system on one day, and the checks and balances are there, right? So this is what he says. Here's the way forward on election integrity, is what he calls it. Single day voting. Make Election Day a national holiday, which is necessary for reconciliation. It should be every year, not just election year. Every year, November, whatever, the first Tuesday of November, which is the way the statute works in America. It's the first Tuesday in November. You have an election. And when you have that, the first Tuesday in November becomes a holiday, and Americans either learn about their election system, argue about their election system, whatever. And we have midterms. So there's a reason to have a vote every single year. And I think it'll happen. They were unreconstructed Oliver Cromwell Roundheads or Quakers. Yes. That's what I understand. And it, like, you can see how New England has been screwed over by the modern world or whatever, because the whole thing worked on intense shaming, like the Japanese or any very religious society, right? So all of New England was a shame-based society and were incredibly difficult on people who didn't conform. Like, it's not, I understand why there was change. I get it, right? Like a lot of what happened in the counterculture in the 60s was against the sort of strictness of New England. But in the end, that's what made New England. That's why you've got Harvard there, Yale, Dartmouth, all of these amazing schools came from that tradition, came from that intense theological background, and the idea that it was thriftiness, hard work, all these things were sort of endemic to the New England culture, right? And I'm a New Englander, so I can see the failure of New England in the last generation very obviously, right? It's very clear. It still sort of exists if you go into parts of Boston, and you can see some of the remnants of it, but it's mostly wiped out, right? It's gone. Like they're without shame. Trust me, this is a disgusting part of the world. Disgusting, right? It's going to get better. I love it. Bitcoin Standard is the way to fix New England. New England has all the pieces to fix. We're going to get it. It's going to be amazing. It's still great, right? I love the farms. There's a lot still to love about it. But if you can't acknowledge that it's fallen from what it was, one of the wealthiest, most successful parts of the world, not even close. And now, I mean, when I as I said, I live right on the border, so I go to the Canadian side, for almost everything, and there's a big difference, right? There's a big difference in the genetic stock, let's say, right? So, but I love my New England, and never going to change. So the whole point here is that Vivek's thing about he says government issued voter ID matched the identification, paper ballots. English as the only language used on ballots. This is easily doable and should not be controversial, right? And I think he's totally right. So Vivek taking on both elections and debanking, right? Really important stuff, and pillars of this fiat system. So some of these Team Human Avengers attacking these pillars, right? Yeah, New England has been a big decline since post-World War II. It sure has, Edgar. It sure has. That's one of the things that's most dear to me about RFK's candidacy is this, right? Like, I love seeing a New Englander fight, and he is as New Englander as you're going to get, right? He's I love listening to him talk about the mountain and the peaks that he's climbed in New England, because I love our mountains of New England. It's New England to me is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's not even close, right? Even to this day, Vermont, the villages, the valleys, the mountains, the farms everywhere. And because it was so poor, they actually did have some advantages, right? some of the modern world sort of flew over them, and they missed some of the changes, right? We don't have really industrial farming. We're not capable. It's just these little valleys, right? And it's not profitable for anyone. So the farmers that are still there are sort of just, scrapping out a living, and it's great. Now, even in my lifetime, I've noticed farms fail at an extreme rate, right? There were way more farms, way more tree coverage. These global warming crybabies. Oh, the trees are getting cut down. I wish. Right? You know how many fields have gone fallow in my area? Like entire farms are just shit brush now because they used to be nice grazing pasture land, but we can't keep up with the trees that grow. We can't cut them fast enough. There's too many, right? We're more forested. We're more forested in New England than we ever have been in like recent memory. Since the 1800s, Vermont was clear cut. I mean, they cut everything, right? The population of Vermont was as big in the 1800s as it is now. So there was a lot of cutting, a lot of trees, a lot of fields that are gone, just gone. It's back to forest, which is fine, right? But you do want to see commercial activity continuing. So that's just me complaining about New England. All right. So Vivek attacking the pillars of election fraud and debanking, right? Excellent, right? So think of this in terms of Avengers. Look at the team we've got, right? Vivek on those things. Perfect. Now we've got the Elon Musk story, right? So Elon Musk getting attacked by the EU now, right? So this is what we know. The EU Commission opened up formal proceedings against X at the WEF summit earlier this year. This is from N Wokeness. An EU commissioner threatened Elon Musk with sanctions if he not cave on censorship, right? And this is that, like, I'm not going to fat shame. So I'm not going to say what I'm about to say, right? But you got this woman who looks like she's putting seed oils into her skin, right, to give it the puffiness. She wants the puffiness, right? So this puffy-faced loser saying, we have rules which have to be complied with. So you're looking at someone who probably doesn't have an IQ of 120. She's probably hovering below 120, right? And smart enough, like, way above average, right? Way above average. But to a 120 person looking up at Elon Musk, what is a dog's IQ exactly? Is it like 50, 60 or something, right? Like it's measurable, right? But do you think, or what's a child's IQ? You know what I mean? What's a child's IQ? A child, right? 70 maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is, right? It's hard to measure. But do you think a child can tell the difference between a 120 IQ and a 140 IQ? Do you think a dog can tell the difference between a 120 IQ and a 140 IQ? Of course not, right? Do you think a mentally handicapped 70 IQ person can tell the difference between a 120 and a 130 IQ? Or a 100 and a 120 and a 130 IQ? Do you think they can tell the difference? Of course not, right? A dog can't tell the difference between the intelligence of a child and an adult. It doesn't know the difference, right? It can't measure it. So this lady with her 120 IQ, now take all those proportions and imagine, what's Elon's IQ? What is it? Like 180? You know what I mean? It's high. I don't know what it is. I couldn't measure it, right? And what I'm saying about this lady applies to me too, right? If you're a 120 IQ like her and you're looking up and you see a 180 IQ, you don't know how much smarter that person is than you. You couldn't tell. You'd be having a 180 IQ if you knew how much volume could be put in there, right? She has no way of knowing. So she's there saying our message is clear. We have rules which have to be complied with. Otherwise, there will be sanctions. So now the Avengers, Elon Musk being a big part of it, right? But Mike Ben-Cyber, I'm putting him on the team. I'm putting Mike Ben-Cyber on this team. He's been my number one source since August for stuff on the show. And here's what he does. He goes into the people that are bringing this stuff against Elon, right? Look at what an advantage this is, okay? Look at this. So we find out that Margrethe Vestager, Margrethe Vestager, she loves doing she's got her profile pic, she's like Elizabeth Warren, looking off into the distance. I'm so contemplative. Look at my degrees over there. They're amazing. Aren't they beautiful? Right. She's got one of these dumb faces looking off into the distance. Like she's so serious, little smirk on her face too in her profile. Right. But speaking of her profile, Mike Benz points out this. In the back on her banner is the following: Love Color Revolutions. What are color revolutions? Just to remind you, color revolutions are how the deep state, that's their method of promoting election fraud and controlling democratic outcomes in countries that aren't the United States. Okay, color revolutions are what they did in Ukraine. We've understood color revolutions for a long time. If you follow Mike Benz and these other people, David Sachs, all these folks have been telling us about what color revolutions are, right? We've been following color revolutions here, and she's got it in her fucking bio. Color, she loves them. I love them. So Margaret, she's the vice president of the European Commission on Digital, blah, 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 blah. I've got a new title for her. Space Drop Lady number 10. All right. We got to drop this lady from space because she's out here promoting color revolutions openly. This is what she says, right? This is her full tweet. X may not have done enough to counter the spread of illegal content and information. And then she goes, today, she uses emojis, right? She uses emojis to talk about destroying the planet, right? Today, we open formal infringement proceedings against X. If breaches are confirmed, there will be sanctions. We take any breach of our rules very seriously, right? And she puts the weightlifting emoji, right? You take them, she's so serious. Margaret, so serious. Oh my goodness, right? So Mike Benz gets more into details. He says here, he gets into all these people who are pushing X around as of today, right? He gets the Zoom call of all kinds of parasites. So he gets a Zoom call, and I'll tell you, he lists every parasite in the Zoom call that was deciding what to do with Elon Musk, right? Here he says, censorship industry insiders plot to leverage EU censorship laws to force X to restaff fired censorship workers. They want to bring Yoel Roth and these losers back. This is what he says, right? Rebecca Trumbull. So he gets everyone in this. There's 5 people in this call, right? Led toxic convo research for Twitter 1.0, right? Katie Harbrath, Atlantic Council and CIA cutout. We've heard all about what the Atlantic Council does, right? Remember what the Atlantic Council did with Bitcoin, right? When Elizabeth Warren wrote the first fake letter that Nick Carter got stopped in the Wall Street Journal to stop, right? And publish corrections on, the same week, Bitcoin and mixers showed up on the Atlantic Council's agenda items to deal with because terrorism finance, right? So that's who we're talking about, Katie Harbath. And he goes, and then Dean Jackson, who's a CIA cutout with NED. I forget what that is. So then he goes into the details of each of these people. Rebecca Trumbull, the woman speaking here, led the first wave of faux researcher infiltration of Twitter 1.0, including the use of AI to monitor speech. She's the archetypical activist masquerading as a researcher to get away active censorship promotion. Katie Harbath, in the upper right quadrant of this clip, has been a censorship speaking tour with Yoel Roth and urging censorship insiders to panic responsibly as they scramble to muster a censorship plan for 65 different elections in 2024. So that's what we got with these guys, right? And we saw Thierry Breton, this stupid person from Belgium. We got to do. Can you get a sound effect for space drops? Good idea, T-Dog. I got to do that. Yeah. What could we do? Maybe we got to do the. Yeah, I need a sound effect. I gotta get a button for that. Yeah. Whoa. So, and Thierry Breton, the stupid Belgian scumbag, has to go too. We got to. If I had to actually get say we're in a world where someone asked me, like, Nolan, you get to choose someone to drop from space. Say this is my contribution to World War III, right? The punishments that are meted out after the battle is over in a Nuremberg style thing, right? I'm not going to get in the way of them dropping Fauci and some of these people, right? It's all those are obvious, right? But if someone comes to me, Nolan, it was because of your nightmare and the vision you had in your nightmare that we're doing space drops as a punishment, you get to choose one. You get to choose one, right? I figure the top drafts are already gone, right? Mine will be Thierry Breton. I want this guy screaming like a pig as he falls. I want to put a little mic in there, right? I'm gonna fucking throw food at him or something on his way down. Something. I just want to get him, right? So Thierry, little son of a bitch. I don't know what it is that bugs me about him. I don't know. I think, I picture myself at my old college in France. I went to college in France. I went to a political science school, and it was okay, but I could feel the brainwashing in the place, the socialist brainwashing. Nothing made me more American, by the way. And I'm not I'm not American, right? So I live in America, but I'm a clandestine American. Um, so when I was living there, I didn't move to France to become super pro America, but in the end, I did, because of how annoying they were with their socialism and their dumb ideas, and it really radicalized me to be an American, right? So almost like I don't know, going for like an underdog situation. Like everyone was pissed off at America, and I didn't get it. They were so misinformed. The one thing you can count on Canadians for is that we understand Americans better than anyone in the world. That's the one thing Canadians have, right? That I can say, well, that's not exactly true. Some Canadians, some Canadians are, because they can't handle psychologically Americans, they have a super inferiority complex. So I don't want to say that's in general, but we are good at understanding media, American mass media, at our best. At our best, we understand America without the craziness that the Europeans have, right? We sort of get it better than anyone. They're our neighbor. We get, it's obvious. Anyway, Thierry Breton was my nomination. So there you go. This is Ezra Levant, who I've met many times, another Canadian, saying they're weaponizing the law against Elon Musk to try to destroy him the same way they're trying to destroy Donald Trump. You just normally don't hear a politician talk so proudly about censorship, but they're not even hiding it, right? And then here's the best one. I shouldn't say I shouldn't say Thierry Breton. I might nominate John Oliver, that awful comedian, just the least funny person you've ever seen. He's been on TV for how long now, John Oliver? It's been over 10 years. It's the same joke. I'm British, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to be surprised, and this is my impression of John Oliver, right? Oh, same joke. It's the same stupid joke, and it's him acting offended as an idiot British person. That's it. That's the whole show. 10 years of that shit, right? So he goes after Elon Musk yesterday, right? This is what he says, right? And this is a breakdown, right? So on his most recent show, John Oliver went on an unhinged, mind-numbingly witless 30-minute rant designed to demean, discredit, and destroy Elon Musk in just about every conceivable way possible. You didn't hear about it because it's so dumb. Okay, so don't make it sound like it worked. It didn't work. John Oliver's reach is probably less than the breakup at this point, right? Probably less than the breakup at this point. No one watches his dumb show. Here's what he says. Oliver and his cringe comedy show are dutifully doing their part in the coordinated left-wing regime media op to take down Elon Musk and X. It's a fascinating study in left-wing agitprop, lightly glazed with a veneer of what passes as humor to left-wing audiences. After attacking Elon's appearance, John Oliver, one of the ugliest, dumb fucking potato heads I've ever seen, right? So here he goes. All the tired standard slurs and epithets are here. Epithets are here. Elon is racist. He's anti-Semitic. He's stupid. He is stupid. Elon Musk is dumb. They go for that one. Messianic, privileged, dangerous, right-wing troll, conspiracy theorist, white nationalist, etc. But Oliver has opened up an alternative attack line in the Musk deep dive that Elon is really not brilliant. That's what John Oliver is going for. John Oliver, who has fallen for every hoax in the world. He's fallen for every hoax. He went on for years about Trump-Russia collusion. So he's fallen for every hoax. Every hoax he falls for. But Elon's the dumb guy. You know what I mean? Unreal. Elon is not a brilliant mind. He's not an innovator. He's not savvy. He's not a good executive, right? No. Elon just stole other people's ideas. He repackaged them and improved upon them. Elon is a horrible, abusive boss. Elon doesn't care about his people. Elon creates dangerous work and conditions. Teslas are going to kill people. Elon is a Russian asset who betrayed them. Kara Swisher comes on the video. It's one of her videos. Kara Swisher, who we all know is working for the Mockingbird people. She gets dropped. Right? She gets dropped. She's a space drop candidate for sure. For sure. She's up there. She's up there now, right? So there you go. You can see all of this stuff. So Elon, right, going after, I think in this case, the entire media industrial, he's luring them out. This is like poison dragging these people towards him, right? So again, we are dealing with one of the most important human humorists. And, we've got the media getting attacked now by Elon. He's not going to let this go. He's suing Media Matters in a thermonuclear warfare. What do you think? The EU is going to get away with this? Who even gives a shit? Who fucking cares what happens there, right? Get out of Twitter and Europe. They're not sending us anyone to help this fight. Fuck them. We're going to have to go save them. We're going to have to go fix our elections and go save them. Let it go. Who cares? It's a garbage shithole, right? Thierry Breton and all these other losers, they got their own problems. We don't care, right? I don't care. I don't want them to die in the end, right? But we're going to save them, but we don't need them now, right? Let them have it. Who cares? So there you go. Now the next one we've got. So we've got Vivek going on elections and debanking. We've got Elon with the media. Now we've got Tucker, right? Tucker, a big part of these events. Mike Benz with the media, right? Mike Benz and Elon taking on the media. Vivek taking on elections. Vivek taking on some of the media too with shut the fuck up, Van Jones. Excellent, right? New rallying cry. But also the debanking, right? So the next one with Tucker, we see him going after the military industrial complex pretty heavily, right? This has become one of his big things, and this is what he says, right? So he was on all kinds of interviews yesterday. There was a Turning Point USA conference. Fucking Tim Pool did something that I've been trying to do with him for a long time, which is he did Tim Pool in real life, live on stage. I want that. So I was very jealous to see. And Tucker Carlson participated. But this is not from that interview. This is from an interview he did with Jimmy Dore. Kaneko the Great has the details. He says, Tucker Carlson and Jimmy Dore argue that the establishment despises Donald Trump because he was the first president in 40 years to not get America involved in a new war. He says that Tucker highlighted how Billy Crystal, if you guys know who Billy Crystal is, he was a right-wing Bush supporter, and he's part of the Lincoln Project now, which is the scam that tries to say that Trump is, some kind of fascist. So here's what they said, that Billy Crystal embraced TDS after Trump criticized George Bush's Iraq war during the 2016 Republican primary debate. So Tucker says that's the day Trump said to Jeb Bush, your brother lied and got us into a war, and the Iraq war was a disaster. The takeaway in Washington was Trump must be stopped. The red line was criticizing neocon foreign policy. Jimmy Dore says, my theory is that they hate Trump because he ran on an anti-interventionist platform and won. Then he actually was an anti-interventionist. He's the only president in my lifetime that didn't start a new war. Tucker and Jimmy then discussed the devastation caused by Joe Biden's proxy war in Ukraine, the ramifications of the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline, right? So he also says in the same vein that Nikki Haley would be the worst thing to be involved with Trump, and that she's a creature of the oligarchs, and that if she was involved, they would assassinate Trump immediately because it would be the same thing as LBJ and LBJ and JFK, right? That they had a better candidate in the waiting, and that was the last thing that the president needed, right? A willing person to back it up. So the idea here, and then you know what Vivek called her, Nikki Haley. She's the Republicans' Kamala Harris. And again, I'll remind you what Trump said about her the other day, which was hilarious, right? Bird brain looked different. Bird brain. And then I guess she had like Botox or something. So instead of making fun of her plastic surgery, he just said she looked different. Trump, come on. It's the best comedian. Too good. All right. So there you go. We got Tucker going on these things. And there is also the story of the Trump memo that's been going around as well. So now it's all the miss. This is they had a. Did you see this article? It was on CNN. It was like 10 pages. It was like a 5,000 word dissertation, right? 5,000 word dissertation. The mystery of the missing binder, how a collection of raw Russian intelligence disappeared under Trump, right? So they're trying to do this big thing. They had Cassidy Hutchinson. Remember her? She's the scammer who wrote that story that Trump like tried to take the controls of the beast, his limo, right? Which is impossible. So she's back on her media tour. Remember, that's the one where I told you she went on MSNBC and she picked out her jacket. Now everyone's gonna know who she is because she's so famous, because nobody read her book and she's a total publishing Mockingbird asset. Okay. So she's there lying again, and none of it's believable. Nobody watched it. It has no influence. It doesn't matter, right? But the point is, they were talking about this missing binder. So it's not a binder; it was a page, right? She couldn't even lie that far. So finally, what we find out is it's not raw Russian intelligence. It's literally the blueprint about how they set Trump up for the Russia-Kalusia scam. Trump, it's not even classified. Trump released it on his last day in office because it shows to what extent the U.S. inside of the government conspired against the president. It shows to what extent there was treason, real treason, right? So now they're saying, oh, Trump lost the binder. No. He actually publicly declassified it. And the president, of course, can declassify anything they'd like, right? But no, they're going to try and turn it into a story, right? So there you go. There's that. And so, we've got the deep state, which Trump will take on with all of his stories. We've got the military industrial complex, which is not exactly the same as the deep state, right? But Tucker's on that as well. And we've got Elon on the fake news. We've got Vivek on the elections and the debanking. Look, we've got a guy on everything. And I don't think our team is going to lose. Right? I'll take our team over these losers any day. And in the end, this brings me to another thing that Tucker is starting to signal. And that's the aliens story, aliens. Tucker talking about the aliens, saying there's a spiritual component to it. Here's what I see. And Tucker has also been describing this lately too, right? Tucker has also been talking about fake history. What have I been saying? I think since we started the breakup, since the earliest days. If you think the news is fake, wait until you get a load of history. Way faker. Like not even close, right? So Tucker now talking about this more and more, and talking about how aliens or whatever. Now, he's mentioning the biologics, right? The spiritual component. My feeling is the fake history and the aliens things are connected. Right now, I'm not talking about aliens to distract people, but when they talk about the biologics, well, what could that mean, right? Were there biologics on Noah's Ark? Were there biologics on Noah's Ark? Of course there were, right? It doesn't have to be from today. If the world was hit by a comet or an asteroid, and that caused the Younger Dryas period, that destroyed civilization, that sunk Atlantis, the pyramids are a holdover from that, right? This is all stuff I believe. Now, I don't know if it's true. It looks true to me. I've been studying it for years. I think that's what's happening. But imagine if they were spacefaring, right? If there were people in space, because we know that there is a satellite up in space that predates us, right? There's a satellite in space that predates humanity. They say it's a rock and it's in orbit. Give me a break. Now, if it's true that there was a antediluvian society, right, pre-flood society, and if they were in space, they couldn't just come back down to Earth. They probably died in their spaceships because Earth was flattened, right? It was just a big wave. You couldn't live. Civilization was wiped out, right? They went underground. They went into extreme conditions or whatever. But the some survivors could still be found if there were drones, if there were probes, if there were ships, if there were some survivability, right? Noah survived with biologics, didn't he? Right? Didn't he? He did. So did it have to be a boat? No, it could have been anything, right? Spaceships, all kinds of things. I'm not even saying it's Noah. There could have been other people, right? And I think I'm not saying Tucker is trying to pace and lead us. I think that everyone is searching for these answers, and the exact example of, because put yourself in this position of Trump right now. If we don't win this fight, Trump goes down as a fascist. Elon's a fascist. Everybody, all us Bitcoiners, we lose, right? If they drop us from space, history will be totally different, right? It'll be right wingers try to make a money system and destroy civilization, right? So history is written by the winners, and we don't have an accurate view of what happened. Not even close. So we're getting to the point now where all this mischief that we're experiencing actually will continue. The unveiling will continue past this mischief, and will go way into history. Once we solve this, we're going to be learning backwards for a long time. We're going to be uncovering new things, and we're going to be learning new things that will, challenge and confirm our ideas about everything. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So 2024 is going to be the best, right? We love it. All right. That's all I got for today, team. Let me see. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Let's see if I got some Rumble comments. Let's see what's going on over on Rumble. 1 minute. Oh, we're getting a lot of people in here. All right. Hello, Chris Barks. Who's here? I am, Don Bully says. Me too. Los Angeles, California, checking in. Hello from Sweden. Sluggo123. Hello, Sweden. If you check out Trump's new digital cards that he is promoting, you will see that he is doing a special promotion if you pay with Bitcoin. Oh, wow. I heard on another podcast that's the reason he's going to doing the dig. That's the reason he's doing the dig. Where is the easiest place to get them? Sluggo123. Hello. Indeed. You know what we got to do? Tommy, anyone else? We got to issue Trump cards on Bitcoin in time for Bitcoin 2024, just around the election. I mean, absolutely. Trump needs to get his cards on Bitcoin. And what did I say? I said Trump is going to say at some point in 2024, I'm a fan. He's going to reverse his I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan being in terms of Avengers. I've used that many times, right? I've used it many times. Trump as Iron Man, all of the engineering, all the greatest rhetorical abilities. He did land a punch on Bitcoin. I've said it a few times, right? But it was, all that for a drop of blood. You know what Scott Adams does now too? So I just said, in this case, Trump is Iron Man. And if he does it, it'll be he landed a punch on Bitcoin. He really did. He's the only one I've ever seen who landed a punch on Bitcoin. He did it. I'm not a fan was devastating. It was a terrible attack. But he could reverse it just as easily and bring as much advantage. You know what Scott Adams does now? Instead of calling, because of all these Trump Hitler things, it's again, like, why'd you beat your wife, right? You don't actually argue it, right? You mock it and you exaggerate it. So no. Scott Adams now, whenever someone calls him Hitler, he goes, no, he's Thanos. It's worse. He's much worse. He's Thanos. He's going to wipe out half of civilization by a flick of his fingers. That's what you got to do. All right. Thank you, guys. Too late to hear the show. Waiting to start it over again. There you go. Okay. Let's see. Why are these Europeans so retarded? They're the dumbest people going. They might be dumber than Canadians. I don't know. I like to say all these people are the dumbest people going. So I change all the time. Whoever I want to make fun of at that moment are the dumbest people in the world. So don't take it personally. Elon has to get involved with the space dropping of no, David. Of course, that was always the premise. Yeah. No, he's the it's his ships we're taking. We're not dropping anyone from space without his help. And no, that's why he gets the first. That's why I'm saying I don't think they would ask me to choose who gets dropped from space until we get down the line. So I get a chance at like John Oliver or Thierry Breton or Kara Swisher or some of these losers. The big names are going to get drafted by Elon. Trump gets one, RFK gets one, right? I don't think even if it's my idea, I don't think I get to draft a space drop candidate until like the second round. The first round, I'm nowhere near the conversation, which is appropriate, right? It's appropriate. So I'm okay with that. I'm not mad about it, you know. Um, Tommy says British playbook, nosy inquiry into how you are different from them, followed by shaming you into being more like them on global scale. Yeah. When was old England ever advanced? Haven't learned too much since the Black Plague and the Enlightenment era, and I believe is a bit overrated. True. Oliver is among the same lines as Kimmel. Yeah, absolutely, just terrible, just dumb. It's the dumbest shit you've ever read. Like it's the lowest IQ signal in the world. If you know someone who does this, just get them out of your life. It's not they're not salvageable today or tomorrow, right? You got to avoid these people, unfortunately. Sucks. Mockingbird media at P-Man, absolutely. Yeah. The best thing Orange Man could do is take Vivek. He will. Yeah. It would protect him. I think he will. Yeah. That's to me what it's looking like. Because he needs I've been saying it. You know who Vivek actually is? He's Richard Nixon. He is Richard Nixon as vice president to Eisenhower. Eisenhower was too old. He knew it. He died just after he left office. He knew he was too old. He wanted to golf. He wanted to be the supreme commander. Appropriate job for him. The whole world loved him, right? So he was a great president. Presidents should be chill. I'm okay with an Eisenhower president. I don't want a active, let's get involved in this and that president, right? Like Joe Biden, fine, if he wasn't so corrupted, right? And I want Trump in the next presidency just to go to MMA fights and football games. And I don't really need to hear too much of his policies other than the future cities, which I love, right? He's actually great at young person policy right now. He's coming across as like young, innovative candidate, but he's old, right? I want him to chill. I want Trump to enjoy some of these last years of his life. And, you know, if he's president, I think he's got to be more like a king. I think he's got to sit back, and not by the powers he exercises, the opposite. A king in that he's chill, like he's not busy. I want him golfing. I want him laughing. I want him enjoying all that he's been through. You know, he's been sort of president for 8 years already because we don't have a president right now, right? He's the only one out there. His job is way more stressful than Joe Biden's job, right? Trump. So, you know, he's already kind of got 8 years on the clock. So it was the same logic as Eisenhower after the World War II. And that's what made Nixon one of the most active and relevant vice presidents in the history of the world, and one of the greatest. So Nixon actually ran a lot of stuff. Like really, he was a young guy, right? He became vice president in 1952. So he had 8 years of being vice president before he lost against Kennedy in 60. And he comes back and becomes president in 68. And the most popular president America's ever had in 72, right? So before Trump, you know, assassinated his character with the fake news Watergate thing. So Nixon, who you know, people were even throwing around, you know, Nixon's becoming relevant again because of his Israel stuff, and I saw Glenn Greenwald sharing some Nixon commentary on, you know, sure, I understand why, you know, Israel is so influential in America. It's natural, right? Every, you know, Jewish American has lobbied me for Israel's case. It's natural. It makes sense, you know, but as a president and so you wouldn't even hear people talk about like that these days, right? Just very America first and things like that. So Nixon, he was an active vice president, and it's the same setup. I think Vivek would actually, in many ways, Nixon was already the president in 52. For real. Like he did most of the jobs, right? Eisenhower couldn't. He was notorious for just golfing and napping and all of these things. Great, good for him. Nixon was the main guy who went everywhere and had a very, very hands-on version of the job. The Pumpkin Papers. If you want to know what Nixon did those years, go look at the Pumpkin Papers. He was all involved in the espionage around the Ginsburgs and the stealing of the nuclear secrets to Russia. You know, very involved. I think the Ginsburgs, I don't know, I forget their name, but anyway, he was involved with those things. So Vivek would be more or less the president as vice president, which is what we want, right? We want all these technical files, Vivek all day long. And I think Trump, you know, when Trump did the when he was reading that thing about bird brain looked different, right? And he was giving everyone like remember Ron DeSanctimonious walking on eggshells in his high heels? In his high heels. But what he said was, Vivek won because he says great things about me. You know what I actually used to say out loud? I said this a lot. When he was president, I used to go into the office at CoinDesk regularly. And this is when people were really angry about Trump, right? And I would say we don't deserve him. Like he is too funny. That would be my argument. People would be angry about Trump. I was like, the truth is, not only do I love him, we don't deserve him. He's too funny. Like, how do we get to have such a hilarious person in the midst of all this trouble, like doing the only thing that works, laughing at the morons? We don't deserve this guy. He's too good. He's too good. And indeed, that line, Vivek won because he says good things about me. It at once drives people insane, but it's also funny and true. So it's great, right? We'll never forget him. We'll never stop loving him ever, right? Even if he screwed up on his last day in office and didn't pardon these people. There you go. So interest in interesting things on the rise. Indeed. There's an unveiling underway. Absolutely. I heard that the Earth magnetic poles shift 90 degrees, turning everything to shit. It was on. Yeah, it's been that people have been talking about that for a long time. It does happen. The polarity shifts. It's happened a few times, but I don't think we're necessarily due for it. But yeah, it looks like it could liquefy the ground for a little while. The vibrational changes could actually liquefy all the dirt and concrete and things like that. That's what destroys everything. So I've seen that, which would be a good reason why we can't find too much stuff from the old days. Love me some I-80 Wolcott, world's largest truck stop. Yeah, that's what they say. I've never been to Iowa, so one day. Let's make Trump's ordinals for him. Fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. Just do it. Yeah, let's make his ordinals. Yeah. And then donate it for political purposes. We love him. Beat you to it. Yeah, let's do it. Love the show, Nolan. Go Team BTC. Thanks, Darsab. Appreciate it. You just reminded me I got selected to be a volunteer at Bitcoin 2240. Great news, Johnny Rico. I owe someone the other Count Bitcoin. Count BTC wants to do the same. So if you're watching Count Bitcoin, great account, by the way. I looked at, Count Bitcoin's account. So he's similar, I'm Count BTC on Twitter. He's Count Bitcoin. When I first saw it, I looked at it was like basically my timeline. He was like tweeting all the same things as me. So we definitely live in a code reuse simulation. So he was asking me about volunteer stuff. So I owe you the connection on that. If you're listening, Count Bitcoin. Trump needs fiat credit. Maybe. I don't think he owns enough real estate. And look, is Trump really so interested in his money in the sense that he has enough and he's not afraid to lose money to do what he's doing? So I don't know if he needs the fiat credit. I think he's got enough hard assets. And I think, anyway, he's not trying to juice his own balance sheet. It's been fucked by his job. I think he's a military combatant. I think he's interested in World War III and winning it, right? And he is. I mean, he is the meme general of the meme war. And who has created more memes in the meme war than Trump? Nobody. He's the meme general, right? So there you go. Nice, Johnny. See you there. Can't wait, Johnny. Indeed. It's going to be fun. Thanks for the laughs, Robert. No problem. All right. That's all I got for today. I don't think good morning, Nolan. Good morning, Lance. I like the Avengers theme idea. Well, that's what it is, right? I mean, I couldn't get the stupid AI to put the faces of the heroes, right? Of Elon or Trump or Vivek or Tucker. But at least I got a bunch of people in the Bitcoin sign. So there you go. But Avengers are assembling, and each of them was taking on one of these pillars. It looks like we got all our bases covered, guys. I don't think 2024 is going to be well, we got stresses coming, but we're going to win. We're going to win, right? You got to do like Joe Biden. You got to whisper what's important, right? We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win, everyone. Said Joe Biden. We're going to win. See you tomorrow.